much. Thank you, everyone. New year, how exciting, right? So exciting. It's so good to be here with awesome volunteers like you. MJDS, you guys are rocking it. Thank you so much. So I'm Leah Stein. I work with Friendship Circle of Wisconsin, and we work with people with disabilities, with kids with disabilities, with adults with disabilities, and mostly we focus on friends. Because how important are your friends to you? You can raise your hand if you feel like friends are important to you. They're pretty important, right? We need our friends. Our friends are the family that we choose, right? We all need our friends. We hang out with our friends by recess, by lunch, after school, weekend. We need our friends. And a lot of kids with disabilities are lonely, and they struggle with so many of their own disabilities that they're not able to then also try so hard to make friends. Does anybody know what disabilities is? Raise your hand if you know. Okay, do you want to share, Maya?
Disability is where something in your brain doesn't quite work right like the rest of other people's brains. So you can't help it, but you'll do different things. You might look different. You might sound different than other people.
That was perfect, Maya. Perfect. Maya, that was wonderful. So people with disabilities, their bodies don't work the way that they wanted them to, whether it's their brain or their whatever it is. It starts with the brain, of course, and they are struggling with trying to keep up with society. And some people with disabilities look different, and some people with disabilities don't look different because it's going on inside. Does anybody here know a person with a disability? Raise your hand. Okay, excellent. I'm so happy that everyone's hands are raised because actually CDC came out with a new statistic that 1 out of 4 people have a disability, which means if you know 4 people, you know someone with a disability. So that means there's people here right now that have a disability, right? There's people here right now. It's not just your neighbors, uncles, cats, dogs, therapists. It's your own friends, your own family, people in your school. So definitely what we're focusing on is creating friendships for everyone. Everyone should feel accepted, everyone should be included. And that definitely starts with you guys. Because when you're kind and patient to people, to everybody, no matter what they look like, no matter what they sound like, just because you're a person and I'm a person, it changes their life. And I'm gonna tell you a story before I wanna show you a video, but let me just tell you a little story. There was a girl with autism. Autism is again, something that you can't see, but it's a disability that you cannot see. And she was going to school every day, and it was getting really hard for her to make friends. Sometimes people with autism don't understand social cues, and it was hard for her to talk to people. And every time she would say something, everyone would laugh at her. And she was just struggling so much. So she would go to school and she would come home. She would go to school and she would come home every single day. And she would go home and she would do sports. How many of you do sports after school or activity after school? Oh my gosh, a lot of you, right? I mean, and that's how you make friends. You meet new people, you go to camp. She didn't do any of those things. She just stayed home and she went from school to home, and it was very lonely. So we heard about her and we heard that she could use some friends. So we set her up with Friends at Home, which is 2 volunteers came to her house every week or every other week, and they came and they hung out with her. And that was wonderful because they came to her house, she was comfortable, and she had these 2 cool friends that would come every week and hang out with her. And she would go back to school and she'd be like, I just hung out with someone on Sunday, I'm like everybody else. And she felt so good. Her confidence level went up so high. And she was so much happier and happy to be around. But still, she never went anywhere else. She stayed home and her friends came to her. So one day we were doing a holiday program. I think it was a Hanukkah party. And I invited her a few times to come. And I was like, come, it'll be so nice. You'll get to meet other friends. You'll get to meet, you'll come with your volunteers. You'll get to know them. But they'll bring you with, and you'll come to the party, and you'll get to see other people. And she's like, no, I'm not leaving my house. Everyone makes fun of me. People look at me weird. I'm not coming out of my house. And so, of course, I kept saying oh, it'd be so fun. And her mother was like, please get her out of the house. It's so hard for me to see her just sad and staying home all day. And just everyone else is going to parties, and she was not, Hanukkah, 8 days of fun, and she's not doing anything. And it was this, it was so, so hard. So I kept pushing. And finally she was like, you know what, okay, Leah, because you won't stop, I'm gonna come, but if I don't like it, I'm not coming to any more programs. And I'm like, you're gonna love it, it'll be so fun. Anyway, meanwhile, I'm like, oh my gosh, please, it'll be fun for her. So she shows up at the program at the parking lot, and she was supposed to meet her volunteers at the parking lot. But stuff happened and the volunteers were running a little bit late. And also a lot of our participants, they come early to things, like because they're excited that they're going to do something, so they always come early. So she came early and her volunteers weren't there yet, they came late. So she shows up at the parking lot and she walks inside with her mother. She looks around the room and she sees other people there. There are people there, but they weren't her volunteers. And again, we used to call everybody friends, so they weren't her friends, right? So she's looking around the room and her face is just, like I see her face just falling. And she looks around and she's like, I can't do this. And of course I'm like, oh, look, we have this and we have that and your friends are on their way and don't worry. But she just got so nervous. She looked around the room and was like, I can't do this. And her mother's like, no, please stay. It'll be so nice for you. And she's like, Mom, I'm never going anywhere again, ever. And she turns around and she runs out the room. She runs to the parking lot. She runs to her car. And on her way, while she's running there, of course, her mother's running after her, and I'm running after them. We're all crying, like, no, stay. Anyway, we get to the car, and she's about to go into the car. And just then another car pulled up with some other volunteers. Not her volunteers, not her, like, specific ones, but other ones. And they came out of the car, and they saw her in the parking lot. And they walked over to her, and they're like, hey, do you want to come with us? We're going to the party. You want to join? And she looked at them. She looked at her mother. She looked at me. She looked back at them. And it was like this moment where it's a decision time. Either I go in with these people and I try to change my life and have friends and have a good life with people, or I go home and I stay home forever. And it was like frozen in time, really. I mean, this moment was frozen in time. Anyway, so she looked at them, they looked at her, and she's like, okay, I'll go in with you. And she just went inside and she was talking and chatting. And then, of course, 2 minutes later, her volunteers came. They're like, where is she? We're here. We're sorry, we're late. And they ran inside and they hung out with her. And all night, she was laughing and chatting and spending time with people and just had the biggest smile on her face. And it was so special to see. And in the middle of the party, I went over to the volunteers who had pulled up in the parking lot. And I said, how did you guys know? How did you know to go over to her? How did you know? In that moment, she doesn't look different. Remember, we said autism is something that looks it's internal. So she looked like me and you. How did you know to walk over to some friend that you don't know and say, hey, you want to join us? And the volunteers were like, Leah, it's Friendship Circle. Everyone's nice to each other. We were just inviting her to join us. We didn't know anything. And that's what volunteering is. Volunteering is saying, I want to be nice to everybody because you're a person and I'm a person. They don't have no idea they changed her life. This girl started coming to things, she started going to programs, she started hanging out with people. This girl actually now, she's in college in Madison, in a special program for kids with autism, and she's living there without her parents, with friends. That was from that day. Look at the power of friendship, guys. And you have that power. I tried to keep her there. I told her, no, stay. Her mother said, no, stay. But she needed friends like you to say, I'm joining you. Come, we'll go in together. Anyway, that's what you guys have. It's a crazy power. And it's amazing when you do that. And it's amazing feeling to know you could change somebody's life. So I'm going to show you a video. We'll show you a video and then we'll talk about details of volunteering. Is that okay? There's so many different ways. So some of you are very busy. I know after school is a lot going on. So we have so many different ways that you can volunteer. And that's why I have them here. Oh, very private, thank you. Okay, we have it up here, and we also have it here, but every month we put out a calendar of a lot of different programs that are going on, so that you could say, you know what, I can't commit to every week, but I can commit to once a month, or I can commit to once every other month. You know what, that's great, because whatever you do is better than nothing, and these kids with special needs, these kids with disabilities, they need the love, they need the friendship. So whatever you're able to do is amazing. And so I know it's a lot of information, but over here you can see it clearly. We also have something coming up September 21st, which is a volunteer kickoff and orientation. It's superhero themed, it'll be fun. But also, you guys are the superheroes. You really are. And even though we call everybody friends, and at programs we call everybody friends. You know, there's no volunteers or recipients. It's everybody's friends. Because everyone can give friendship to each other. But sometimes we don't really know what to do, and we don't know how to act. So the kickoff is going to be really fun, first of all, because it's going to be awesome, and also because we're going to learn a lot, like different things. And if you have any questions, we always are here for you and we answer them all. So please, if you feel like, how do I volunteer? This is so strange. This is a new thing for me. Don't worry about it. We got you, okay? So this is going to be here, and I'm going to, should we give it out afterwards, or
Yeah,
anybody who wants it can have
Yeah,
it?
well, we can make sure to give you guys a few minutes before we have to leave to answer individual questions.
Sure.
And take anything from this table. Does
Okay,
that sound good?
that sounds great. And this one last thing, this is a lot of volunteering opportunities for this whole year. So if you say, you know what, I can do maybe like a few times a year, let's say, right? So you can look at this, you can show this to your parents, and you could decide with your parents what you'd like to do. We have some and we have also a lot of programs. Like for example, we have something called Art and Baking, which we bake something really delicious, and we do art, and then we switch. Some of you have volunteered for that in the past, and that's been really fun. It's a small group of kids, and they're kids with all abilities. So there's some kids with disabilities and some kids who are neurotypical. That's what we say when someone doesn't have a diagnosis. We call them neurotypical. And we have all kids together, and the idea is to create this feeling of unity, that everyone's together. We also have Inclusion Club, which some of you have been at too. I see some friends over here. Inclusion Club is on Sundays once a month. We do this really fun, exciting event that's like something really cool. Animals, bounce house, bubbles, something very cool. And then and we have kids of all abilities coming together. And you can start volunteering for that in 5th grade, actually. So Friends at Home, usually we start in 7th grade, but it really also depends on your schedule and your, how busy you are and stuff like that. So we can definitely talk. What I usually tell volunteers is, look at this, take these stuff home if you're interested, talk it over with your parents, and then we can make a time to meet one-on-one, and we can talk about what you're interested in doing. Because there's so many ways to volunteer. Some people are afraid of I'm not afraid, but I'm a little nervous to work with people with disabilities. I prefer to work in the back end. And that's fine too. We pack bags for people's birthdays. You know what I mean? So there's so many different ways to volunteer. And that's why there's so many different ways. So you can do so many things. That's why everyone could be involved in a different way. So if anybody has questions, we have